All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Mindful Hunter podcast. I'm your host, as always, Jay Nichol, with a very special guest on board today, a fellow Canadian, Tannis, who is based out of Alberta. I can't even remember when I started following your Instagram. It's been a while though. She lives in a very different place than I do, like a different type of country, and she gets to hunt different stuff. And she's a bit of a lever action fanatic, which I don't know a whole ton about. So I'm always kind of interested in that. And to top it all off, she kind of started this year with a bang, a pretty crazy goat hunt in northern BC. So we're going to talk about a bunch of stuff and particularly that. So thank you very much for taking the time today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, my pleasure, for sure. It's always nice when I can talk to fellow Canadians. So maybe the beginning is as good a place to start as any. How did you initially get exposed to hunting? Do you come from a hunting family?
Sure. So it's kind of interesting how I got into hunting. Growing up, like I have two brothers, and growing up, like hockey was the main focus of like my parents and my brothers. Like that's what they were always busy with. And my dad did like a little bit of hunting. He grew up hunting some, but he wasn't like huge into it. He just kind of did it sort of as a hobby, a little bit here and there.
And are you born and raised in Alberta? Like that's where all this is kind of taking place. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. So anyway, I started hunting with my dad, I think when I was about 13 or 14, kind of as a thing for us to do together because he was so busy with the boys all the time. I kind of got left out.
That's interesting.
And yeah, so like, I don't know, I've always been kind of outdoorsy and a bit of a tomboy. So it just seemed like kind of a common thing, kind of a common interest that just something that we could do together. So yeah, I started with him, and yeah, the first year I got my first deer, I got a doe with him, and I mean, I was just kind of hooked after that. Like I just had so much fun. I just wanted to do it.
So what was that like? Was it stand hunting? Were you guys walking around? Like what?
So it's very different from the kind of hunting I do now.
Okay.
Nothing wrong with it if that's how people hunt, but we actually, we were sitting, I guess it would have been like we were in a log pile, so kind of like in a blind and just sitting there till dark. And that part I wasn't totally interested in. I was pretty bored actually. Like this is hunting, but I guess it's pretty fun when you get to actually pull the trigger at something. But so that's kind of, yeah, what I started doing. Very different from what I do now. But
and how old were you when you got that deer?
I was 13 or 14.
Okay.
I can't remember exactly, but yeah. And then a couple years later, I think I was 17. I met Claire, which is now my husband. He he was really into hunting, and he's actually he's an Indian, so he's a native, and so he grew up like they hunted all the time. Like they weren't trophy hunters or anything. They just hunted because they needed meat.
Sure.
So, yeah, we kind of got together and just kind of just went with it. And that's what we did all the time. And like he grew up, his uncle had a trap line out west actually. And like from the time he was 3 years old, he was spending like a week out there with his dad and his uncle, just like trapping and hunting. And so that's always been like, something that's been a part of him. So like when we got together, it just kind of became our thing and kind of fueled that fire and interest for both of us. And yeah, the rest is just kind of history. That's my life now.
So, because I'm not super familiar with the tag system in Alberta, what do you guys typically spend time? Because I know the way you guys handle sheep is a little bit different than the way we handle sheep. Both of us have pretty good over-the-counter opportunities, but you know, except for when rare circumstances like this goat hunt come up, like what types of things are you normally focusing on throughout the year?
So the last probably 6, 7 maybe even 8 years, sheep has really been my focus. It used to be mostly just whitetails, because that's just like the easiest thing to get. Anybody can get a whitetail tag. So starting out, that's kind of always was my focus. But then, yeah, like Claire and I just started spending a lot of time out in the mountains, and it just kind of clicked like, hey, why aren't we hunting sheep?
Right.
Like, we love the mountains. We're out here all the time. And yeah, we just kind of got into sheep, and you can just get basically, and anybody can just buy a sheep tag. It's limited to certain areas, but yeah, it's just like a general tag that anybody can really buy. So yeah, that's kind of my focus now. It's been sheep for many years now. It's kind of been my obsession.
It's kind of funny you mentioned you're being out in the mountains. You're like, why aren't we hunting sheep? So I just did my first sheep hunt this year, and I've spent a shitload of time in the mountains, and I found myself for the last 5 years, like forcing deer and elk hunts into places where they're not, because it's like, well, I want to go into these terrain and I want to be really far away from people, but I find myself almost going on shitty deer and elk hunts when it's like, there's way easier places to go hunt deer and elk, but it's like, that's not where I want to be. So, and then when I went sheep hunting, I was like, well, this was kind of dumb. Like, this was here all along, and this is the exact type of experience that I'm looking for, and the animal does actually live where I want to be.
Yeah, like we even try to like do our deer hunting and everything out west as well in the mountains, because it's just so much more rewarding. It's like
100%.
Coming back home and just like hunting deer on farmland is kind of like, this is boring.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. My bear hunt in the spring is like really chill. I got a buddy who's an outfitter, and I don't go right on his tenure, but I stay at his place, and he lets me hunt some of the farmers' fields and it's like a total easy, fun meat hunt, and it is what it is. But when those animals just do not feel the same. Like, I'm still super grateful for them, and I eat the shit out of them, but it's not like a mountain animal. Like, it's just not the same.
Totally. Feeling. It's not the same thing at all.
So, and I think you do a pretty good job articulating this on your channel. What do you think it is, or what does the mountains do for you, or what, like, why do you feel drawn to that? And maybe once you were drawn to that, like, why was it important to you to kind of keep that in your life, or what does it do for you?
I think I just, I don't know. I like the challenge. Like, it's so much harder mentally and physically. And obviously the beautiful scenery is just, it just doesn't compare to anything here at home. 'Cause like I live probably, it's like 2 hours from the mountains, a little less. So like I live pretty close, but, I don't know. I think it's just that it's so much harder to do it out there and get an animal out in the mountains. It just makes it so much more rewarding. And I mean, I love hiking, and I just love the mountains anyway, and being outside and being in nature. So yeah, it just was it for me once I started. Like, that's all I wanted to do.
Can you think of like one, particularly rewarding time? I mean, maybe it was successful, maybe it was unsuccessful, and one kind of particularly challenging time, maybe when you got your ass kicked or something like that from a sheep hunt out there?
Sure. Yeah, I can actually answer that question in one story.
Oh, that's perfect.
So when I actually got my ram, which was in 2019, my husband and I we hiked out. It was 50 kilometers on foot, and we hiked like way back out in the mountains, and I like going out there. We'd never been out to this certain area before, and going out there, we thought like for sure him and I are going to be the only hunters crazy enough to walk that far, like without horses or whatever. Like we're going to have the place to ourselves. I guarantee there's not going to be any hunters. And funny thing, like it took us, I think, 3 days to hike in there, just because we didn't really know the trail. We didn't know where we were going, and kept losing it and having to bushwhack forever. But anyway, we ran into 2 hunters on the way out there, going the same place as us, which we were absolutely shocked. And then we the next day we got to where we were going, and we ran into one more hunter that was actually camped there for
Oh
like
my
2 weeks.
God.
He's like hardcore. Yeah, he was like living out there. And as soon as we get into the bowl, we're going to camp and whatever, two more hunters climb up over the ridge. And we're like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, I had no idea that other hunters knew about this place. So I was pretty discouraged at that point. We actually had hiked in before season started so that we could hopefully locate some rams and then get on something on opening day, which, opening day came, and it was kind of interesting trying to hunt this same bull with a bunch of other hunters, but
oh my God.
it's kind of stressful, especially when you're that far back. It almost felt like it was kind of a waste to walk 50 kilometers. But anyway,
That's crazy, by the way. I've done some shitty hikes, but like 50K just to get in, that's legit.
Yeah, no, it was, it was terrible. It's not fun, but I did end up on opening day. I was lucky enough to get on some sheep before anybody else. And I was pretty discouraged even that morning, opening day. Then I got my ram, and him and I had to haul a sheep out 50 kilometers again. And that was definitely like the hardest thing I've done for sure. Obviously physically, but even mentally, like, I don't know. It was hard.
Did you run into any of the other people on the way
that.
out when you had a sheep?
We just ran into like some random hikers and some other hunters that were a lot closer. They weren't going as far as us, but like further down the trail. But it was hard. I think we weighed our packs when we got home, and Claire's pack was 100 pounds. Mine was 80 pounds. And like, I'm a small person. I'm like 120 pounds. So that was tough. I didn't really think I could do something like that, but it's kind of cool to know that I can if I have to.
Yeah, I mean, respect. Like, I had a pretty heavy pack this year, but I weighed 260 pounds. And it's like, that's a lot different than 120 pounds carrying around. I even think about that, some of the smaller dudes. Like, I'm kind of buddies with Adam Foss, and like, he is not a large man. And when I think about a dude like that, in some ways, I think it's a benefit. Like, I almost think hiking, without a full pack, I think you have a bit of a benefit because you're carrying around a little bit less weight. There's a little less wear and tear on the joints. But I do feel like with bigger packs, having that bigger frame, it just because in proportion to your actual body weight, it's not as much. And I think about that, even guys like him, like, I bet you he's only 150 pounds, maybe. Like, he's not a big guy at all.
Yeah, and like, that's part of the problem, like, being a smaller person, like, finding a pack that actually fits me in the first place is just impossible. So you can imagine how uncomfortable and awful that was. It was just like hanging down, and it was just awful.
So that's an interesting segue. I should have actually prepared some questions like this, but let's take a little digression and talk about gear. So what are you running for a pack?
Okay, so I'm using a Badlands pack. I think it's the Summit, if I remember correctly, but I mean, it works. It's fine. It's definitely made for a man. So being a female and having a smaller frame has been kind of a challenge to find stuff that works for me. But usually I just kind of just suck it up and deal with it and just go with whatever's sort of works. So I mean, it's fine, but I'm sure there's other options out there. But it's hard, like, even like clothing in the hunting industry. It's hard to find clothes that even fit right, and it's kind of tough. I am with I wear Scree right now, and little shout out to Scree. They're gonna be launching a women's line here pretty soon, so I'm pretty excited about that. But
yeah, I knew you were. How do you like their stuff? I've never worn it. It looks nice.
Yeah, no, I love it. It's if I had to compare it to anything, I mean, to me it feels like the same material and quality as like the big brands out there. Like it honestly is just like Kuiu to me. It seems like the exact same material. I really like it. It's been great for me. I've used it on quite a few hunts now, and I've got pretty much no complaints other than I want stuff that fits a little better.
Absolutely.
Which soon.
Well,
soon,
and I will
yeah.
say, I like their marketing. They tend to focus on, and I hate this term. I don't want to call you or anybody else an influencer, but they tend to focus on not like going after gigantic celebrity type people and people that might be a little bit more authentic about kind of what they're doing and how they're getting after it and stuff. Because I'm trying to think, there's a couple others. I think there's a couple of people in BC I know, and they're all like pretty legit people. Like they're all working day jobs and doing their thing. Like nobody's like some big famous hunter or anything like that. But it's an interesting kind of niche that they're going after, which I can respect that. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, no, I really like that too, because it's just like real people that, they have other regular jobs, and it's just normal people that just really love hunting, and it's been a great group of people so far.
What other kind of gear challenges, or maybe are there any tips that you've run into that would be helpful for other women in the hunting industry? Because that's got to be a bitch.
Yeah, it's mostly honestly just been, the biggest one has been the pack for me. It's just, I think Badlands actually just started like an actual line of backpacks for women. I haven't really looked into it hard enough, but that has been the biggest issue for me for sure. Just not being able to find anything small enough.
Well, and that shoulder width would be everything. Because I even know when like you can make almost anything fit if it's I've had packs that are a bit short or packs that are a bit long, you can kind of get it done. But if those shoulder straps are 3 inches out to the side further than they should be, there's not like the pack is just not suspending weight the way that it was designed to do at that point.
Totally. And like when you're hunting in the mountains, like you need a big backpack too, but like even just the whole frame of it and everything, just too long for me. Like obviously it's made for somebody with a longer torso, so it sits better on their hips. But yeah, that just never seems to work. And like I said, like I always have like the straps and everything just as tight as everything can go. So I don't know. I just deal with it, just make it work.
Yeah, interesting. I know Kafaru, that's who I run, and they have different size frames, but they definitely still don't have anything specifically for women. I know that. Yeah. And even Stone Glacier, they're kind of like the hipster pack company. I thought they would for sure have, because even some of the bigger lines, like I know First Light, I think has some women's camo now, but not a backpack. And I think Sitka has some women's. I know Sitka has some women's camo.
Yeah.
But I don't know of anyone who has a woman's backpack. What about boots and stuff? Do you find that challenging? Or I guess because the mountaineering space is so big, you can kind of like there's still decent hiking boots that come in women's sizes? Yeah,
the boots haven't been too bad.
Okay.
It's funny because when I first started sheep hunting, my first few pair of boots I had actually were just like these leather prospectors that I got from Valley Village for $20. And I ran those for like 4 years, and I thought they were great. My feet were always wet, but I just thought that was just
that's how it works. You just have wet feet when you go sheep hunting. Yeah.
It's just how it is. Like I didn't think that there was actually anything out there that was better. So I got like my first pair of I have Loas right now, and completely changed my life. I had no idea that you could actually have dry feet and not have blisters and everything.
I hope totally all the dudes who plague me with gear questions for their first backcountry hunt listen to this fucking podcast because you have no idea like how hung up people get on like, and they'll start arguing with me sometimes. They just, but I heard this particular pant was better than that. And I'm like, oh my God, man, I don't care. Wear whatever you want then. It's just like, and people get so, and I almost think it's because it's the one thing you can control. Like people don't know what they're going to run into when they get out there and they're scared, but they're like, well, if I just have the perfect gear, then everything will be okay. And what you come to realize when you get out there, like, okay, gear is going to make you moderately more comfortable 100%. And a couple bucks spent in the right areas is definitely going to pay off. But at the end of the day, it's going to be your mind before your body that goes. And,
totally.
I think everybody should do their first couple hunts in some shitty gear, because I think then you kind of know what you're actually getting after that. You know what I mean? I think most people are a little bit spoiled by the quality of gear that we have these days.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's nice to have nice gear. And like you said, it obviously makes some things a little bit more comfortable and easier. But at the same time, it's, to me, like, I'm not rich, so I don't spend a lot of money on stuff. I have some good gear, but over the years, like, I used to just hike in $20 Value Village boots and jeans and just kind of make whatever work. And I don't know.
I was in work gear for the first few years, because I was a forestry engineer for 15 years. So I wore like Helly Hansen rain gear to work. And I wore like those leather and rubber corks, the half and halves that are like leather uppers and rubber on the bottom. And so when I first started hunting blacktail on the coast, I was like, well, this is what we wear to go to work. And that's in the mountains on the coast in the rain all day. So it kind of makes sense to me that we're going to wear that into the bush to go hunting. And and I did that for years before I, started buying fancy camo. And even before that, it was like going into Cabela's and like buying some of the clearance shit. Cause it's like, well, it's got a camo pattern and it's cheap. So, and I'm lucky, like, people are going to be calling me a hypocritical bastard, because like now I run in like pretty nice. Like, it's kind of ridiculous what I spend on hunting, but I've also been doing this for quite a while, and I'm at a point in life where I can afford that kind of stuff. But I do think I liken it to like this. I think it's great that everybody can navigate with their phone these days, and I fully support OnX and Basemap and all the rest of them. But when I first started doing layout, GPS literally did not even, like, the military had access to it, but commercial use of GPS was not even like a legal thing. So I learned how to go into the mountains, turn around, and come home with a compass and a tight chain, or a compass and a string box. And I think having that as a base, I'm not saying that's what you should do every day, but having that as a base, then when you get outside of that and you do get spoiled with the nicer stuff, at least you've got the fundamentals, which I think a lot of people who get into things these days are kind of missing out on. Yeah.
No, I agree completely. Yeah.
So let's get into this goat hunt, because it was kind of fun. Like, I don't know. Now I'm gapping out. It's Dustin, right? BC Backcountry and Beyond.
Yep.
And I don't know him well whatsoever. We've crossed paths online a couple times. He's an absolute legend as far as I'm concerned in the kind of BC guiding industry, and that area that he's got up there is absolutely insane. And with COVID going on and stuff, I'd even always said to myself, like, I like, this would be the time to like go up there or try and do a hunt with, like, there was a few guys that are kind of on my bucket list of kind of outfits that if I was going to ever get to do one like that, that's how I would like to go and do it. But kind of, because I guess you're friends with the other Tannis as well, which is really weird, because it's like Tannis is not a common name. When I first started seeing the pictures, I was like, what the shit? I was like, it took me a moment to like piece things together. And I thought I would have, I don't know if you did this on purpose, if you kept it under the radar, but like, I kind of see what's going on with your post. And I was like, all of a sudden you've just got a dead goat. And I was like, what the fuck? I was like, I didn't even like, I was almost like a little bit like, shouldn't I have known that this was like going to happen or something? But anyway, super congratulations. Like, I've had my ass kicked on goat before. So I can relate to how challenging of a hunt that is. But walk me through the whole thing, because I'm super curious.
Okay, so I did kind of keep it on the down low, just because, just with everything going on with COVID and everything, I didn't know, there was just still some uncertainty, like, if it was actually happening. So I didn't want to just, like, I don't know, tell people I was going and then I wasn't.
Totally.
So it's kind of funny how it all happened. I had never really thought or planned to ever go on any kind of guided hunt anywhere outside of Alberta. It's just, obviously it's something I'd want to do, but it's just nothing I considered because we're not rich, and it's just totally not something I could afford.
Hey, and as for most people, I've got some dream hunts in Alaska that are way off my radar too.
Yeah.
Like, and these are not like, listen, man, you can go do a spring black bear for like $3,500, or you can go down to Arizona and do a coos deer for $3-4 grand. But these types of hunts are like a goat in BC or like a grizzly and like these are hunts that are kind of on a different level. So I mean, I'm in the same boat. Like, absolutely have some bucket list hunts, but like the finance, like my wife would kill me.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's kind of funny how it happened because my husband and I were just sitting at home one day, and he just looked at me. He's like, "Do you want to go on a goat hunt?" And I'm like, duh." not really thinking he was asking me a serious question like that was actually something I do. But I was like, obviously, what a dumb question. But he was like, "No, I'm serious." Like, he's like, I'm texting Dustin right now, and just like with everything going on. They're kind of scrambling to find people to come hunt, and their prices were dropped for Canadians, and I was like, you know what, like I should just do this because I'm probably never going to get the chance to do this.
I think it's a perfect storm. I tried telling people, I'm like, listen, if you had ever had sheep or goat on the mind, like the last 2 seasons were your 2 seasons, because that shit ain't ever happening again.
Totally, that's exactly what I was thinking, and just with COVID and traveling and everything, I thought like, this is my window. I got to do it. I'm probably never going to get this chance again. So just like that, we booked it, and that was that. Like, nothing that I had really planned or thought would ever happen. And then it just happened to work out perfectly because, Tannis Barkman works for Dustin.
Yep.
And it's really funny how her and I connected because for probably the last like 3 or 4 years, I have had so many people message me asking me about how guiding in BC with Dustin is and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what? I mean, I don't live in BC. I don't guide in BC and whatever. This happened for like years. I had several messages and I'm like, why is this happening? This is the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
And then I don't even know how I found her account, but I found this Tannis Ray. I'm like, oh my goodness, this has to be why people they must just think I'm her.
Yeah.
Because she guides for Dustin. But so anyway, we connected and became friends like way before I was thinking of doing this hunt, and we've chatted over the years here and there. And as soon as we booked the hunt, I said I wanted to go with Tannis, and then that's how we met, which is pretty cool because we both have the same first name and middle name. We're both Tannis Ray, so it's just
that's insane. Is there some like old country singer named that, or is like what's going on? Like,
no, I have no idea. It's
just super
totally random
coincidence.
Yep.
Wow, that's odd.
No, so it was like the coolest way probably to meet was to go on a goat hunt together.
Yeah,
and it did not disappoint. She was the best. She was awesome.
Okay, so we booked the goat hunt. We're gonna go with Tannis. What's next? I mean, one hell of a drive, I guess.
Yeah, so it was about 20 hours.
Yeah.
Originally, the plan, because I just had a baby, and by the time my hunt comes, he's gonna be 1.
Yep.
So our plan was Claire and I and Finn, we're all gonna go to BC together, and Claire and Finn will just have to stay at camp, I guess, or something. We were just trying to figure it all out, like what we're going to do.
Sure.
So that was our original plan. But then as we got closer, I think it was like a week or 2 weeks before I was actually getting ready to go, Claire ended up getting a job that would be starting like right when I was gone, when my hunt starts. So we're like, well, that's not going to work. So then we were actually telling one of Claire's cousins about the hunt, and he was like, oh yeah, so where's this hunt? And we told him, and like his eyes just like lit up, and he's like, no way. Like, I guided in that same area 30 years ago. He did like a bunch of horse hunts and he worked for an outfitter 30 years ago, same place. So he kind of got interested in it, and we just invited him to go because I didn't want to. I mean, I probably could have, but I didn't really want to drive 20 hours by myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just didn't sound fun. So
yeah, it's a grind.
Yeah. So we invited Shane, and he ended up, I brought him on the hunt with me as well.
Okay.
It ended up being in a little bit of a different place that he guided, but it was still really cool to be able to bring him and kind of share that cool experience with him. And he got to see some of the same areas that he was in so many years ago, and just brought back a lot of memories for him. And yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm really glad he was able to come. It just worked out so good. So.
And just for people listening, we're talking like far northwest BC, right? Like borderline Yukon type shit.
Yeah. It's up in the Cassiars. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are the logistics of the hunt? Are we doing horses, base camp, spike camp? What does everything actually look like?
Yeah, so I kind of wanted it to be a horse hunt. Yeah. Not because I don't care if I have to walk, but I just thought it'd be a cool experience because I've always wanted to get into that, having horses and taking them out hunting. It's always been an interest of mine, but I just haven't gotten into it. But yeah, so no, it was all on foot, and it was interesting because I didn't realize this, but like Shane told me later, like he has never done a hunt like this before. Like he's used to packing in horses, and when you have horses, like you can kind of live kind of comfortably with like a nice tent and food and stuff. But like he didn't realize, like, yeah, your food for 10 days and your entire life is like on your back.
Yep. And it sucks.
Oh yeah, it sucks. So
in a beautiful kind of way.
Oh yeah, definitely. It just makes it like that much more rewarding, I think. But yeah, so yeah, that was cool. Sort of for him to get to experience a hunt like that. I'm used to that. That's like all Claire and I do here in Alberta. All on foot, and yeah, your life on your back, basically. So it was like nothing new to me, but yeah.
Okay, so I mean, I guess you have to get up into goat country. Were you seeing a lot of goats? Mm-hmm. Was it a bit of a grind? Like, how's the hunt end up playing out?
Yeah, so yeah, the first day was just straight hiking up, and it was awful. I actually, it's funny because I feel like, I don't know, BC mountains are so much different than Alberta mountains, especially like up in the North country there. It's just like mind blowing, like how big and vast and wide and huge everything is. Like obviously our mountains are big too, but I don't know, it just was like totally different to me. But yeah, first day just hiking in with heavy packs, trying to get up as high as possible. And I actually like even, I don't know, I kind of pushed myself a little too far. I even like pulled like a muscle in my leg, but like obviously I didn't say anything. I just like kept pushing through. Yeah. Like, this is so stupid. This had to happen on the first day. But so yeah, that was
first days are the worst. I have a new mantra, like 70% first days, because like without fail, I go too hard on day one, and I'll either get some hot spots and I won't put Luca tape on them, or I'll roll an ankle, or I'll just hike 14 miles when 8 miles would have done. Yeah. And it's just like, bro, you have 10 days. Like, just chill the fuck out. And I it's all ego. And it's like, I really work hard. I even told on our sheep hunt this year with Spencer and Tristan, I'm like, we're going easy on day one. And it's even then it was hard to like, because you're saying, oh, you're being a pussy. But it's like, you got to think of it as a marathon, not a sprint. And your mind is just so hard to stop.
Totally, like you're excited and just want to get there. And so that was me. I'm just all pumped. And anyway, it was, the first day was tough. But yeah, we get up there and we see goats right away as soon as we're
Great.
like setting up camp, and so that was pretty encouraging.
Yeah.
But then like second day we wake up and we're completely socked in. You can't even see like 20 feet in front of you, and
Yep.
like I was like, frick, this sucks. Like how many days of this are we gonna have? Because the weather actually looked like we were gonna have bad weather for quite a few days. So
Yep.
I know it was only day 2, but I'm already just like super discouraged. Like,
It's one of the worst things because it's also the thing you can do the least about. And I've heard it said that's why mountain hunts are 10 days. You know what I mean? Lots of times, although I don't seem to have the best luck, it wouldn't necessarily take 10 days to be successful, but you almost need to count on the fact that 30, 40, 50% of your hunting time could just be wiped off the map because visibility is at 0.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was the second day. We literally just like basically stayed in our tents till noon. And by noon, I'm just so antsy. I'm like, we got to do something. So we, to get water was kind of a bit of a hike. So I was like, let's just go get some water and whatever, I guess. I just got to get up and do something. So we, hiked down, got some water, and came back and just hung out back in our tents. We went because there's nothing else to do. But then by evening it had cleared. And so we were able to go sit on the edge of a bowl and glass for a few hours in the evening. So that was nice. And we did see some more goats right away, which was encouraging. Nothing big enough or worth going after. I think we saw like a nanny and a kid and one smaller billy that day.
Now, how's your ability to sex a goat? Like, do you feel comfortable doing that yet? Was that something that was important to you that you like spend some time looking at before you left?
Yeah, I definitely did. And I did a little bit of research before because I didn't want to just like go and be like useless and totally just rely totally on Tannis for everything. Like if I'm going to go, like I want to be, pulling my weight.
For sure.
So I did do a little bit of research because before, I mean, we can't hunt goats here in Alberta, so it's just nothing that I've really had to look into too hard. But
something I just learned that's really interesting is that the legal obligation in British Columbia for sheep hunt, well, for any type of hunting, but sheep hunting is the one where we get in the most trouble, is on the hunter.
Oh yeah.
And so even if your guide tells you to shoot something, you could be shooting an illegal ram, and if you haven't done enough homework to know that what you're doing is illegal, you can't. I mean, they can tell you to do whatever they want to tell you to do, but you're the one at the end of the day who's going to – and I kind of feel the same way with the Billy Nanny thing. Like, yes, shooting a nanny is not illegal in British Columbia, but we highly discourage it because of the profound impact it has on the population. So, yeah, I'm 100% with you. I think you want to take as – obviously, you're with a professional. She's going to be highly trained, but you also don't want to feel like you're just blindly following somebody. Like, you want to be playing a role in that call as well.
Yeah, and so I did do a little bit of research, but obviously it's different when you're there, and they are so similar. It can be hard to tell sometimes. Yeah. So now I feel after that hunt, I feel pretty confident that I could identify between the two. But definitely was different than I thought it was going to be once I actually saw a goat.
I'm still nervous when they're alone. If they're in a group, I can get to a spot where I feel comfortable because you can like compare things, but it was like one goat by itself, especially if you're a decent distance away and you don't get to watch it go piss or something, like man, those differences can be pretty marginal unless you're like a legitimate expert who's been doing it for years.
Totally. Even like the size, like I'd
100%.
See like, sweet, that's a big goat.
Yeah.
And she'd be like, no, that's just a young Billy. And I'm like, oh, I guess. But, no, I definitely feel a lot more confident now actually seeing like quite a few goats too the whole time I was on that hunt. It was good.
Okay, so when do we start getting to the point where we put something down?
Yeah, so I think it was day 4 because day 3 we just did a whole bunch of hiking and glassing, and like it was a hot day and we just weren't seeing much and getting kind of discouraged. I saw my first caribou, which cool. I was so pumped about.
They're so crazy looking. And I think, and they would have been mountain caribou up there. So they've got like that crazy silvery kind of edge to their coat. Like that's one of the craziest hides. I've never seen an antelope, and I can see how that'd be pretty crazy too. But I was the same way. I think it was last year I was solo elk hunting in northern BC and got to within about 70, 80 yards of a bull caribou. And I was just like, holy shit, man, that thing looks crazy.
No, I was so pumped. I was so discouraged all day. We're not seeing any goats. And then I find these, I actually spotted them too. I was pretty proud of myself.
See, that's the best too. When you get the spot. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was just like, that totally made my day. I was so pumped. But yeah, actually after the third day, we had planned to actually hike out further and to see if we find some new goats. Cause we're kind of just seeing the same ones every day from where we were.
Yep.
So yeah, then day 4, our plan was to hike out, to a different spot. So day 4, we wake up and we pack up camp, ready to, hike further out. And of course we decided just to check the couple bulls that were close to us that we'd been, glassing like for hours every single day. But we just decided like on our way out, we might as well just check them one more time. So, yeah, immediately Shane spots a billy across the bowl from us. So we dropped our packs and crawled to the edge of the bowl, and we sat there and watched this billy for a little bit. And yeah, we decided we were going to make a go at it. So we actually left Shane at the spot where he could watch the billy. And then Tannis and I, we were going to sneak around. We had to go kind of around, and we didn't want to go like right on Skyline in case he saw us, but so we had to go like way around, bit of a hike, over some big boulders. And anyway, we're going to try and pop up on top of him and, hopefully be able to kind of shoot down at him. Cause he was kind of just like, in the cliffs along the edge. So anyway, we hike over there. We thought we should be able to see Shane from where we were, and maybe he'd be able to like give us a heads up if it happened to take off or something. Yeah,
kind of flag you in.
Yeah, just so we're not just going in blind. That was our plan, which didn't work out that way. But anyway, we hike out, get to the edge, and we're trying to get some eyes on this billy and trying to get some eyes on Shane. We cannot find Shane. He's nowhere to be found. We're like, what the heck? We just had this plan and he's not where he's supposed to be. So anyway, we're like, whatever, we'll just try and find this goat. So we're like sneaking, trying to look and trying to find this goat. Can't find it. We're like climbing down the cliffs, like looking over every rock, trying to find it. It's nowhere to be found. So we go back up to the top and just trying to sort of reevaluate and, I don't know, come up with some other plan. And try to find Shane. We're still glassing for Shane. Like, where the heck is he? And like, he's like a cowboy and wears a cowboy hat out there. Like, why can't we see him?
He should stick out. I saw some of the pictures. I'm like, it would be hard to miss that guy out there.
Yeah, exactly. We're like, what is going on? This is so weird. So Tannis is actually starting to get worried. She's like, well, what if something happened to Shane? Like, something's got to be up. We better find out what happened. I'm like trying to calm her down. Like, this is Shane Judy you're talking about. He's like he sheep hunts in Alberta all the time. And like, he's a tough cowboy. Like, he knows what he's doing.
Right.
Like, he spent a lot of time in the mountains, and there's nothing to be worried about. Like, let's just find this goat. Just make sure that it's not just hiding behind some little cliff here somewhere. Like, let's at least just find out if it's gone or not.
Right.
So she agreed, like, okay. So we try again, looking everywhere for this goat. We even go further down into the cliffs and just kind of sketchy and just looking everywhere and we cannot find it. So we just go back up to the top and we just sit there and we're like, still trying to look for Shane. He's not over there. So, but then we were thinking like the goat must have taken off or something. So Shane's probably going to be popping out over that ridge, right? Like any second. I'm sure he's probably coming our way to tell us that it's gone or something. Right. So we like sit there and waiting and nothing's happening. And so we're both sort of mostly her. She was worrying so much about Shane. I'm like thinking like he's probably fine. He's probably just on his way over here. But we both decide we'll just go back because we can't find this goat anyway. So we go back and pretty relieved. We can see our packs on the ground, and then I see this cowboy hat, and there's Shane. He's standing there waving at us, and everything's fine. I'm like, good. He's told you he's fine. But yeah, then we get to him, and kind of interesting what happened was he was watching that goat, and about like 5 or 10 minutes after Tannis and I left to go try to get up on him, he just happened to get up and walk away. The goat did. And so like he wasn't spooked or anything. He just
a goat doing goat things.
Time to go. Yeah. So he actually was gone by the time we got over there. But since we had just left like 5 or 10 minutes ago, Shane thought that he could catch up to us. So yeah, he started making his way over to us, like kind of hurrying. Said he wasn't like really straining himself, but like trying to get to us quick. And he just, I don't know, had some kind of weird thing happen where he just like couldn't breathe. And he just kind of like collapsed and like didn't know what was going on. And like he's in good shape. Like it shouldn't have been anything for him to climb up there and climb over to us, but he said it really freaked him out. Like every time he'd try to get up and climb, he kept collapsing and
crazy.
Just like he just didn't know what to do. He like laid down. And he said he didn't know how long he was laying there for. Like doesn't know if he passed out or what. But then anyway, he like woke up and was like, "Crap, these girls are never gonna find me laying here." So I better try and get back to where they can at least find me if I'm gonna pass out again. So he I guess he said he just like crawled back and got back down and got to our packs and just sat there and waited. And by the time we got to him, he said he felt fine. He said he felt a little weird, but no idea what happened there.
Crazy.
Yeah, so that kind of shook us both up. Like we're really worried about him, and I was worried, like, not that my hunt was going to be ruined, but I just felt bad. Like, obviously I'm worried about Shane. Obviously, number one, I want him to be okay. But yeah, so we're like not really sure what we should do at that point. If we should help hike Shane out of there in case something happens again. So, because we didn't want to push him hard and something happen again. So we actually had a plan. We were gonna either stay at camp and Shane would just have to stay at camp, I guess, or we were gonna hike him out of there, and then Tannis and I would just continue hunting the rest of the 10 days or whatever.
Right.
So yeah, we were kind of shooken up and brought Shane back to camp and made sure he was comfortable and didn't do anything, just made him chill. And by this time, like, that was most of the day. Most of the day was gone at that point. So Tannis and I decided to go glass this one bowl one more time. It was a different one than we hadn't been to that day. Actually, the same bowl where I saw those caribou. We decided to go just for the evening and just sit there and see if we could find anything. Even though we weren't sure, like, the next day what we were going to do. If we were going to end up hiking out or what. But decided we'll go check it out. So we hike up there and we're just glassing this bowl. And, like, literally within, like, 3 seconds, I spot these goats way down in the valley. There's actually 4 goats, and it was really cool to watch them because it was a nanny and a kid and these 2 small billies, but they were fighting. And it was just so fun to watch because they were just like circling each other and like like taking shots at each other with their horns. And yeah, it was just cool to just sit there and watch these goats kind of in their element, doing their thing, doing their goat thing. And it yeah, it was pretty down, but it was a good evening. And yeah, Tannis and I are just chatting about life and hanging out. And anyway, I got up and it's kind of funny because I was looking for a rock to pee behind.
Yeah.
So I go back there, do my thing, and I look up, and along like the ridge, the saddle of the bowl that we were in, I see this like white spot, and it's by like a big snow patch. I'm like, I've looked over there probably 100 times today.
Yeah.
And when you're looking for goats, it's like every white rock starts to look like a goat. Yeah. So I'm just like, yeah, it's just another white rock. And I'm like walking back to Tannis, but I was like, you know what? I should just look just to make sure, even though I've already decided in my mind it's a rock. So I like, grab my binos and I'm looking. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. It's a stinking goat just standing there watching me. It's probably like 400 yards away, so it's not even that far.
Right.
So I like signal to Tannis. I'm like, there's a goat right there. It's like watching us, got his eyes locked on us. But she looked at it for a couple seconds. She's like, yeah, it's Billy, let's go. So we kind of like leapfrogging from rock to rock, trying to get closer to this goat. We're like way out in the open, like right on top of this ridge. So there wasn't a ton of cover. We didn't want to just like totally rush him like right on skyline. So we're had to like drop down into the rocks in the cliffs a little bit on the inside of the bowl. Anyway, we get on him. He's about 300 yards away now, and he decides to get up and start walking away. And yeah, I was like, frick, that was my chance. He's gonna walk away, and that's gonna be that. But I get lined up on him, and he's still walking, and Tannis actually whistled at him.
Yep. And
it's a trick that works like a charm for deer, but I mean, I didn't know that it would work on goats, but sure enough, he was about 324 yards at this point.
And what are you shooting, by the way?
I'm shooting, I use quite a bit in the mountains. I use a Browning BLR in 308.
Okay.
It's kind of been my go-to for the last few years. I shot my ram with that as well, and it's just, yeah. But anyway, she whistled, and he turned back to give us one more look, and was broadside, and just no hesitation. I just pulled the trigger, and he just dropped right there, and yeah, it was pretty exciting. Because I thought for sure, thought for sure he was walking away, and that
they don't go down easy either, man. Like I know a lot of people who've put a lot of bullets in goats and had like bad recoveries and goats they never saw again. Like they are notoriously tough animals.
That's what Tannis told me. She was like, that was awesome because she's never seen a goat just drop.
Her job just got a whole lot easier too.
Yeah, we told Shane that too, and he's like, I've never even heard of a goat just dropping. They take off, and like I've heard lots of stories too. Like they're tough. Like usually you got to put like a few rounds in them to get them down. So I was pretty stoked about that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And did you have a number in your head for, because these are kind of questions I always ponder when I head up in mountain hunts on rifles, like a distance that was like, okay, inside this, I'm good. Outside that, I'm not taking a shot. Like what's your personal comfort range?
Well, for this particular hunt, like with so much money kind of riding on it.
Yeah.
I told her like, I don't really want to take a shot past 400. Like,
sure.
If we can get within 400, I'll be happy. I'm sure it'll be fine. Like I even told her like even within 300 would be ideal.
Yeah.
But just because there's so much riding on this, like.
Oh, I think those are very respectable distances too. I know I personally have never, I shot an odd at 300 and that's the furthest I've ever shot anything. I've done target practice a little bit further. Yeah. But I think especially when you're dealing with like mountains and draws and wind and, you know, when you start getting past that 4, definitely the odds of something happening that's not right, I think start to go up pretty sharply as well.
Totally. Yeah. And I even told her like while I was on the hunt too, like I'm not trying to put any pressure on you, but like I have to go home with something. Like I
Right.
will not accept that I'm going home with no goat.
Yeah.
So no pressure, but we got to do this. So no, it worked out awesome. And I didn't know because we're kind of close to camp. So I thought like maybe Shane could have heard the shot.
Yep.
But we weren't sure. And we didn't know if like he heard the shot and if he'd get all worried, like what was happening and couldn't see us or whatever. Or if he like decided to like come check out what we were doing. But so we just decided we actually hiked back to camp, told him I got the goat, and he was so excited. I was pretty sad that like he couldn't be there with me. I think that would have been a little
been cool.
Yeah, I really wanted him to be able to share that with me, but I was just happy that at least we hadn't like hiked him out and he wasn't there at all. Like he still got to kind of experience it with me. So yeah, and then we went back to the goat, got it cut up and deboned and bringing it back to camp. And to me, like the coolest part of it was, so I shot it right like at the end of the day pretty much. And like we were hiking back to camp. I think it was like midnight by the time we were getting back to camp.
Right.
And it was just like such a beautiful night. It was supposed to rain that night and it didn't. It was just like clear skies. The stars were out. It was full moon. It was so bright. And it just, to me, it was just so magical. And I was loving every second of it.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I was like thinking about that before I went. I'm like, that would suck to have to hike out like through the night. But to me, that was like honestly like my favorite part.
That's badass.
Yeah.
What are you going to do with the goat as far as like a mount, Euro? Like what's the plan?
I'm going to do a shoulder mount
Okay.
actually. And my husband's actually going to do it. He's been,
I've seen that he kind of started taking that on recently and it was like actually looking pretty decent.
Yeah, he's been getting into taxidermy here and he's just all pumped on it. So
I think a shoulder mount is a good choice with a goat because it's tough to, like a skull never, that's my only, like I'm a big Euro fan, but like Euro just doesn't do a goat justice. I think it's one of the only animals that it's like, they're just so majestic and they're so big across the chest and the shoulders. And I think, you know, most of us don't have the room or money for like a full mount, but I think especially with a goat, I think that shoulder mount is a particularly cool idea because you're still going to be able to kind of convey that mass that they have.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Yeah, I don't think I'm probably ever going to get another goat. So I thought like, I got to get some kind of mount done. I can't just do a Euro. But yeah, a full mount's kind of out of the question.
Yeah, I don't even know where I'd put one in my house, let alone the money that it would cost to get one. It was funny. I said to myself last year, if I got a goat, unless it was just giant, that I was going to sell the hide because you can get really good money for the hides as well. And I'm like, oh, to help pay for more hunts. But yeah. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just going to say that. Yeah, I'm getting a shoulder mount done, but I kept the rest of the hide as well, which I'm just getting tanned. And I'm going to try and make something cool out of that too. Cause it won't be like it won't be a full piece of hide. It's just like kind of the back half. So
but you could do like gloves or something. Like you could do something cool. Like some type of like hat or something or like a shawl, scarf, something. I mean, that fur is insane.
Oh, it's beautiful. Like I was thinking like a vest or like something cool for Finn. Maybe if it's not a huge piece, like I don't know, something anyway.
So how is the wind down? Because these are pretty emotional events. There's a lot of money on the line. It's very stressful. And then all of a sudden with, 1 inch of movement from your index finger, the whole thing is done. So how was that afterwards?
That was pretty unreal. I think just cause like I was pretty stressed about it. And I also conveyed that stress to Tannis as well. Just like, just telling her like, this is literally my only chance to do this.
Yeah.
I'm not like some of the other hunters that you have where if they come and they don't get anything like, oh, well, I guess there's always next year. I'll try again. It's like, no, this is it. This is like my one chance. So with that kind of in the back of my head, like to actually get that goat down was just unreal. Like, yeah, almost as good as when I got my ram. And that was a pretty big deal. But yeah, and just having Shane there kind of made it a little more special too. And yeah, it was the best feeling ever.
That's badass.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're kind of running out of time, but there's one more topic I want to touch on at least lightly, because I don't have a chance to have many women on the podcast, and I think it's an important topic to talk about, because there are younger women kind of coming up in the hunting industry, and I think there's some good examples out there, and there's some not so good examples out there, and I think you're definitely on the good end of the spectrum. So just maybe, especially since you've just had your first kid, and I know you've had to deal with some, kind of, not nice messages and all that kind of stuff. But how do you stay kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, you don't seem to fall victim to like some of the other motivations that some of the other women on Instagram do. What's your North Star in this whole thing? And what do you see as like, do you think it's kind of your obligation to be a good example, or is this just something that there's a right way to do things and a wrong way to do things, and this is the right way as far as you're concerned?
Well, I think it's pretty easy to fall into that trap.
Yeah.
I think I don't know, even maybe in the beginning of when I started Instagram, it was a little tempting to go that route, but just like for the followers and whatever. But like,
it works. That's the thing. Like, you can't argue. Like, it works.
Totally. And I think for me, I never really went that way because, first of all, it's just not me. And second of all, I would rather put out content out there or whatever. I want people to know, like, this is actually my life. Like, it's not a joke. Like, this is what I do. This is my life. I don't know. I'm serious about it, sort of, in a way, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. It's just, I'd rather be taken seriously and just show that, I don't know, hunting, trapping, being in the wilderness, whatever, like, that's my life, and it's really important to me, and it's not just a joke, and it's not just something I do and take pictures of for followers and for Instagram. A lot of what I do doesn't go on Instagram.
I think that's an awesome way to kind of sum things up, because people ask me, for example, the analogy for me is like, oh, how come you're not trying to get a bunch of sponsorships? And it's like, well, you can run out and get kind of lower grade sponsorships pretty easily. Totally. But it's like there's a long game and a short game to this thing. And I think when you talk about wanting to be taken seriously and that this is really important to you, I mean, it comes through in the content that you put out. Like, you go on legitimate hunts and you spend legitimate time in the mountains, and even with some training and stuff, like, you take it seriously and you have kind of really thoughtful posts and content. And I think like that comes through. And I remember Joe Rogan said one time, the benefit of doing a podcast with somebody for 3 hours is that no one can bullshit you for 3 hours. So you kind of, if somebody's full of shit, it's going to come through. I kind of think Instagram's kind of the same way. Like, yeah, okay, maybe for a couple weeks you could follow somebody and you think they're one type of way, but after you've been following somebody and seeing their content for a long enough period of time, the people who have more integrity, it just shines through. And then the people who don't, it also becomes pretty obvious. And I think it might take longer, not that like growing a big Instagram is even your goal or anything, but doing what you do and communicating, it might take longer to like build something, but I think it's like stronger for it in the long run.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I'm glad that is, I hope that's what most people see anyway.
Well, listen, I really want to, that was a super great story. I was like, I've actually been thinking of having you on for quite a while, just with schedules and stuff. It never happened. And then as soon as I saw you got the goat, I'm like, oh, well, this will be perfect because we can talk about the goat hunt because I was super interested. And I did see when Dustin started kind of posting about, I was like, man, I would like to hit him up and go do, because they still weren't, it was still quite an investment, but it definitely got it a little bit closer to that, every person type of hunt,
Yeah. 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 That's why I was like, I'm going to jump on this. I have to. I got to do it.
Well, that's awesome. Okay. Thank you again, Tannis. I greatly appreciate it, and best of luck in everything going forward.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
All right. Anytime. Cheers.
All right. Bye.